Hi, I'm Charity. If you don't know who I am, I go by Vogue Princessa. I am a cosplayer from the US and I make videos. In November of this year, I will have been cosplaying for almost 10 years, which is a long time, but definitely not as long as cosplay has been around. Now, I'm not the first person to make a video like this. In fact, there are quite a few others, so there may be some overlapping of information. I linked a few that I got inspiration from and all of my sources in the description below, so feel free to check them out anytime you want, since I may have covered something that I didn't. Before we start, if I mispronounced anything, I sincerely apologize. I did look up how to pronounce everything I was unfamiliar with, but I still may mess up since it may not be a common word in my native language. So I'm sorry and please be patient with me. Before we get into what we know now as cosplay, let's talk about the history of costuming for a little bit. So, character costumes have been around since maybe 500 BCE with theatrical costuming. Western theater finds its origins in Greek celebrations, where they would wear a stylized mask to portray what kind of character they were playing. Western theater essentially died after the fall of the Roman Empire until it re-emerged again 800 years later. Keeping far ahead into the 16th century, the costumes had become the most important part of theater, even more than the script, and were often made from expensive materials and became even more lavish after 1727. Halloween costumes, on the other hand, are believed to have originated from Samhain festivals, where from October 31st to November 1st, people would go door to door in disguises, possibly to trick Ishi, who were mythological creatures similar to elves or fairies. Modern-day traditions became popular in Ireland and Scotland by the late 19th century, while in North America it didn't seem to hit until the early 20th century. Now let's talk about fan costuming. We're going to jump ahead to 1939, where the first World Science Fiction Convention was held. While this isn't the first fan convention, that title belongs to the 1936 PhilCon, this is where Forrest J. Ackerman and Myrtle Douglas are said to have attended in handmade costumes that were based on the film Things to Come. Their costumes inspired the start of the masquerade at the Second World Con, and of course, fan costuming in North America, which we now know as cosplay. After years of holding the masquerade, a lot of guidelines had to be made, as some people got very creative with their ideas. For example, in 1952, a nude costume trend began and took off in the 1970s, eventually leading to a ban and only allowing partial nudity. In 1962, I guess you could say realistic, blaster prop led to the ban of fire. I'm sure you can guess why. If you want more of an insight on what conventions were like back then, as well as a description of the infamous The Turd cosplay, I recommend checking out Mike Resnick's Memories of Worldcon Part 4 article, which I have also linked down below. Reading through it, it's nice to see how some things never change. Even though I wasn't alive during the time all this took place, it still felt like I was reminiscing on convention I had previously attended. Now, while conventions were getting popular in the West, Japan was about to hold their possibly first doujinshi convention in 1975. Comiket was co-founded by Yoshihiro Yonezawa and Mikyu after the manga magazine COM, or COM, was shut down. This meant that many indie manga artists wouldn't be able to receive much attention as the market was dominated by large companies. So, Comiket was created, and in its first year, gained 700 attendees. Within a few years, the comic market had gained more popularity, and the Mobile Suit Gunman and Yurusei Yatsura animes were released a few years later, expediting the growth of fan culture. And in 1983, Nobuyuki Takahashi wrote an article for My Anime about the costumes he had seen at Comiket, creating the word cosplay, a combination of costume and play. Eventually, Comiket became the largest fan convention in the world, and its 40 years plus of service has garnered an estimated almost 1 million attendees. Of course, a convention as big as this has attracted cosplayers from all over the world, even the famous Japanese cosplayer Enako, who is apparently so popular it's impossible to get a picture of her at this con because she's completely surrounded by photographers. While she is giving a lot of space, as shown in the picture, unfortunately a lot of cosplayers aren't given this kind of respect. In August 2019, a video was released revealing that a Chinese cosplayer who attended the convention was harassed by a crowd of photographers, eventually bringing her to tears. The con staff stepped in, but many photographers had already taken inappropriate pictures of her. Other cosplayers who were wary to attend the convention for either the first time or to go back stated that this was why. This brings us to our next and last topic: cosplay is not consent. In 2013, the group Geeks for Consent was started by attorney Rochelle Kean, Aaron Filson, and Anna Kegler in hopes of getting San Diego Comic-Con to create a formal anti-harassment policy, which they refused, stating that they have a code of conduct, however, it is extremely vague. Okay, so my camera died, but we're back. Their petition gained almost 3,000 signatures as of 2014, but glancing at the policies of the convention now, it seems that they still haven't added one and is relying on the code of conduct. In 2014, New York Comic Con made a sign that says cosplay is not consent in regards to their zero tolerance anti-harassment policy. Of course, this sign won't stop the more insistent agitators, but it is important to say loud and clear that you won't stand for this kind of behavior under any circumstances. And it's refreshing to see that a convention cares, at least a little, after seeing the response of CDCC. I have been harassed in a cosplay at a convention before, and the con did nothing about it, and they also didn't have a formal policy, so maybe NYCC is getting onto something. Mashable has a well-written article that talks about this and cosplayers' experiences, so please check that out. Well, that's everything I have for you guys today. I know I kind of skipped around a bit, but I wanted to try and cover every major cosplay-related thing I could think of. If I missed anything or you want a more detailed explanation on something I mentioned in the video, let me know and I'll make a part 2. See you next time, movie. Bye!